Imagine a place where over 80% of its residents live in homes built by the government, and 95% of them are homeowners. What place could that be? Singapore, the impressive city-state that has become a development model for the world. Singapore has much to teach us all about combating corruption, boosting the economy, improving public transportation, and education. But today, we will focus on a particular aspect: public housing. To be precise, Singapore is currently the world leader in this area. Throughout this story, we will discover how Singapore managed to solve the housing crisis in the early 1960s and build hundreds of thousands of quality housing units for its citizens. Are you ready? Let's begin. Singapore, known for seamlessly blending modernity with tradition, has seen a dynamic evolution in its real estate market that mirrors the vibrancy of its streets. From the towering skyscrapers that define the Marina Bay area to the charming terrace houses in Tiong Bahru, the city's real estate scene tells a story of economic growth and social change over the years. In fact, according to the Mercer ranking, Singapore ranks among the top 30 best cities in the world to live. But the situation hasn't always been so favorable. In the small nation of Singapore, with a population density of around 8,000 people per square mile, space has always been at a premium. In the 1950s, thousands of Singaporeans found themselves living crowded in informal settlements, lacking basic services, and in unhealthy conditions. Over a quarter of the population resided in fragile wooden or sheet metal cubicles, without access to clean water, electricity, or drainage. It was clearly an unsustainable situation. After declaring independence in 1959 and losing a significant portion of its infrastructure during World War II, the new government prioritized urgently improving the inadequate housing conditions. Thus, in 1960, they established the Housing and Development Board of Singapore, HDB for short, to undertake an ambitious public housing plan. Even though the housing issue traced back to 1927, when the Singapore Improvement Trust was formed under British rule, the HDB had key advantages. It had substantial financial resources, the freedom to navigate regulations, and the autonomy to act without the approval of other departments. With these tools, the HDB would revolutionize Singapore's housing sector in the coming decades, fixing a problem that had been there for a long time. However, initially, people were suspicious of the government's intentions and its proposal for public housing. Everything changed in 1961 when a devastating fire swept through a densely populated slum in Singapore. The narrow wooden shanties fueled the flames rapidly as people used oil and candles for cooking and lighting. Almost 100 acres were destroyed, 4 people died, and another 16,000 were left homeless. In the face of this tragedy, the HDB took swift action. They quickly acquired the burned land and, against all odds, put up several apartment buildings in record time to shelter everyone affected. A new apartment was built every 45 minutes. This efficient government response to address the housing emergency had a profound impact on Singaporeans and completely changed their perception. Important laws in 1963 and 1966 made it easier for the HDB to do its job. After proving it could handle the housing crisis, the HDB got the power to get any land it needed for its projects. Then in 1967, a big law called the Land Acquisition Act was passed. This let the government take control of the land. This meant that land banking, or the land reserve, fell under the purview of the Housing Board. In practical terms, this implies that the HDB decides how many homes to build, at what prices they will be sold, and under what conditions. Naturally, these prices are always set below market values, aiming to ensure access for all Singaporeans. This was reinforced by Lee Hsien Loong, Prime Minister of Singapore.
Over the decades, the government has kept housing affordable and accessible for Singaporeans. We price HDB flats at a substantial discount below their market value. We also provide a wide range of generous grants to first-timers, families, and the lower income.
This groundbreaking approach saw the public authority take charge of the entire housing supply. With no interference from speculative land prices, they could plan and carry out their ambitious projects in the most efficient way to benefit the people. Furthermore, HDB also auctions off land to private developers for the construction of privately owned residential complexes. However, in all cases, the land remains publicly owned. This means that owners cannot use it for other purposes. It is this focus on affordability that has enabled the vast majority of Singaporeans to become homeowners. Data from the Department of Statistics Singapore shows dramatic growth in homeownership rates, from just 29% in 1960 to over 90% today, a clear sign of success. But now, here's the interesting part. When a Singaporean citizen, and I said citizen because foreigners are not eligible, well, when a Singaporean citizen acquires one of these homes, they're not actually buying the house or the land itself. Instead, they receive a lease for a period of 99 years. Yes, that's right. They only have the right to stay for nearly a century. After that time, ownership reverts back to the state. This ensures long-term access to affordable housing for all residents while maintaining control over the use and distribution of the valuable land on the island. But here is their Prime Minister again to explain it better.
There is one fundamental reason why HDB leases are for 99 years. And that is, we need to be fair to future generations. Let me explain. HDB sells you the flat for 99 years. You own it, you can pass it on for 1 or 2 generations. After that, the flat comes back to the state, the government redevelops the land and builds new flats for future generations. This is the only way to recycle the land to ensure that all our descendants can buy new BTO flats of their own. If instead the government sold you the flat on freehold, that means in perpetuity, sooner or later we would run out of land to build new flats for future generations.
This way, the issue of housing scarcity and poor quality in Singapore was practically resolved. They developed an innovative model that encourages the growth of family legacies while ensuring a decent life for people from all walks of life. And unlike many countries, public housing in Singapore is not only for the poor. In reality, it caters to all socioeconomic levels that require it. In fact, people can buy anything from basic apartments to luxury units. Unlike in many other places where public housing is often associated with crime-ridden projects in poor areas, Singapore has proven this stereotype wrong. Despite over 80% of its residents living in state-owned apartments, it's one of the safest cities on the planet, boasting top-notch infrastructure and one of the highest life expectancies. So, how did they achieve this? While it's true that initially, to address the emergency, the HDB constructed small one-room cubicles, they didn't settle for that temporary solution. Gradually, they created and improved homes, more spacious, luxurious, and equipped with all the amenities. And as the 2000s brought rising incomes and environmental awareness, sustainable design became a higher priority. Newer complexes embraced greenery and eco-friendliness, such as Pinnacle Riar Duxton with its rooftop gardens and preservation of mature on-site trees. Adapting to Singaporeans' changing needs, public housing showcases innovative models over time. In doing so, they demonstrated that public housing doesn't have to be synonymous with poverty. Moreover, one of the secrets to the success of the Singaporean model is that the HDB doesn't view housing as mere apartments. They plan complete residential environments that cater to all the needs of the residents. Parks, transportation, shops. It's much more than just apartments. Public housing in Singapore is at the heart of the state-city planning. These are known as HDB Towns, essentially residential districts made up solely of HDB public housing. As you can see, the city was planned around these towns, not the other way around, completely avoiding the creation of marginalized areas for its tenants. On the contrary, HDB housing is strategically placed in vital areas of the city, providing plenty of opportunities for low-income individuals to progress. It's not just that. The apartments built by HDB are carefully planned and designed to offer excellent housing quality. Naturally, they come equipped with all essential amenities such as water, electricity, and elevators. In HDB towns, there are small municipal councils primarily made up of community residents and tenants, along with the district representative, responsible for maintaining the communal spaces of the homes. As a result, HDB residents routinely report strong bonds with neighbors decades on. A 2021 survey reflected this, finding 87% of tenants expressed feeling a strong sense of community and connection to their neighbors, higher than many other developed cities. That's why in an HDB residence, the grass will always be well trimmed, the hallways and walkways will always be clean, and the facades of the buildings will never be worn out. However, there's another concern when it comes to public housing, and that's the stereotypes associated with the people who live in them. To address this, the Singaporean government has come up with a response, though it may be a bit controversial. Since it's the government that constructs and sells the majority of homes, they use housing as a tool for some social engineering. For example, this is done to prevent the creation of racial enclaves. Given Singapore's racial diversity, homes in a building or development are allocated in a way that the ownership reflects a similar ethnic distribution to that of the entire country. So if there are, let's say, 100 homes in a block or development, you would find 74 Chinese owners, 13 Malay owners, 9 Indian owners, and so forth. This was particularly relevant at the time when Singapore was witnessing racial and religious conflicts in its closest neighbors, Indonesia and Malaysia. The government was concerned that similar tensions could arise in the small country, with Chinese, Indians, and Malays living in the same spaces, attending the same schools, and using the same public transportation. The government claims that this approach has built a Singaporean identity rooted in racial and cultural diversity, keeping the population united. Additionally, it allowed people from different economic classes to live together, preventing the formation of impoverished neighborhood. This stands as the most intrusive social policy implemented by the government. In present times, the HDB is credited with building over 1 million homes in total, and the percentage of citizens residing in public housing has surged from 9% in 1960 to over 80% in recent years. Their public housing is widely considered among the best globally, with the HDB reporting a satisfaction level of around 90%. However, there's been some recent concern among Singaporean citizens. Since 2021, data indicates that the affordability of public housing has started to decline. It seems that disruptions in the supply chain have led to shortages, driving up real estate prices. This has alarmed many potential buyers who were looking for their first home. In response to this situation, the government hasn't stood idly by. In February 2023, during the budget debate, the finance minister announced new measures to address the issue. On one hand, the construction of more HDB BTO, built-to-order apartments, homes built upon request once buyers confirm their purchase, will be expedited. Additionally, more land will be sold to private developers to increase the supply. However, the most noteworthy move was the package of grants and subsidies aimed at making home ownership more accessible. These initiatives focus on providing support, especially to young and first-time families, as well as newlywed couples under the age of 40. With these measures, Singapore aims to maintain its track record of success and innovation in the housing sector, ensuring the right to decent housing for all its citizens. What an incredible story the public housing in Singapore has, don't you think? From addressing a crisis to becoming a global role model, it truly demonstrates that with vision and planning, it's possible to ensure the right to decent housing for everyone. If you found this evolution interesting, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Fetched, where we fetch you interesting topics weekly. And of course, remember to turn on notifications because we'll soon be bringing more content your way. Until next time.